If you want to be a TV writer, you need to write a great TV pilot script. You can potentially sell that script, but more likely as a beginning writer, that pilot script will be the writing sample you use to get representation and jobs, which makes it pretty important. So how do you write a great TV pilot script? First, you gotta write the first draft. Hi, I'm Micah Cratty. I'm a WGA screenwriter and the head of writing at Arc Studio. This is the 5th lesson in Arc Studio's How to Write a Great TV Pilot course. In this lesson, we're going to learn all about writing the first draft. This lesson will be divided into 2 parts. In the first part, I'll go over 7 tips for getting you started on your first draft, and in the second part, I'll share 7 tips for writing great scenes. And if you haven't, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our future lessons and videos. Now, come with me as we dunk this basketball of knowledge together, brought to you by Arc Studio Screenwriting and your imagination. Here are 7 tips for getting you started on the first draft of your pilot script. The best way to learn how to write a pilot script is to read a bunch of pilot scripts first. So before you start actually writing, I recommend finding a bunch of pilot scripts that you love or are in the same genre as the one you're writing in and reading them to see how those scenes and how the pilot's written. You can find a lot of scripts just by Googling for them. Try searching for something like the show name plus script PDF. It can also help to read scripts for episodes that aren't pilots, and it even helps to read scripts for movies. Reading a lot of scripts is how most screenwriters learn about script formatting and what scripts and scenes actually look like. But if you want a refresher on script formatting, I'll link to a video for you. Before we talk about the how, we need to talk about the who. Who are you writing this script for? It might seem obvious. You're writing this script for the director, actors, and crew who are eventually going to actually make this episode, right? Well, not really. Your real audience is comprised of managers, agents, producers, studio and network executives, and all of those people's assistants, because the assistants do most of the reading. Those are the people who need to love your script if it's ever going to be made. We'll call them the suits. If the suits don't love the script, it's not going to get to the point where the pilot's actually made. And remember, you're also going to use this pilot as a writing sample. And the suits are the ones who hire you for jobs, so you want them to love it. Knowing your audience is helpful for a couple other reasons too. First, knowing your audience will answer a lot of questions you have along the way as you write, like how much detail should I use in this scene description, or how much world building do I need to do here? The answer to both is just enough so that the suits understand what's going on, but not too much that they get bogged down by details that they don't care about. Second, knowing your audience will affect the style you use when you write. This isn't some dry technical document or blueprint, which is sometimes how I see scripts described online, and I don't agree with that. Your script should be enjoyable to read. It should showcase your unique voice and style. You want your script to be so compelling that when the suits read it, they feel like they have to make it. This might feel intimidating, but I actually want it to encourage you to explore creatively as you write your first draft. Be expressive, be cheeky, let your voice shine through, because this is just a first draft and then you're going to do a lot of revisions. You can always cut, add, or change things later. In fact, a lot of writers think of their first draft as a vomit draft or a first draft. They don't stress too much about it being good. They just want to get something down on paper and then later they can revise it and make it better. This doesn't mean you should just write anything and shovel a lot of slop onto the page. You still should work hard on your first draft. It just means that you shouldn't be too stressed out as you write about it being good right now, because it's a first draft. It probably will be bad, and that's okay. It's all part of the process. You're going to revise it later and make it better. So don't let the fact that it's not good right now stop you from getting moving. Starting to write your script can feel really exciting until you're actually sitting there staring at the blank page. Then it can feel overwhelming and even paralyzing. This can happen even if you have a great outline and well-developed characters. Don't worry, this is normal. Translating your development work into actual scenes is really hard. This is where that vomit draft idea comes in handy. Just get something down on paper. It doesn't have to be perfect, you just want to get the ball rolling. You also don't have to start at the beginning. If there's a scene later on that you're really excited about, or you feel like you have a really good handle on how you want to write that scene first. This will get you in your groove. Then you can go back to the beginning and keep moving forward. Speaking of your great outline, think of it as a guide, not a mandate. As you're writing this first draft, you're still getting to know the characters, the world, and your story. It's an exploratory process, so don't be afraid to change things if you think of something better. Just be smart about it, because any changes you make to your pilot are going to have ramifications for later on in your pilot and your series moving forward. To write your script, you'll need a screenwriting app if you don't already have one. You can write a script with a basic word processor, but it's a lot more work because of screenplay formatting. This video is brought to you by Arc Studio Pro, which you don't have to use, but that's what I use and recommend. Arc Studio Pro has the basics like automatic industry standard formatting, and it's also got a really nice writing flow where you can just use tab and return to switch through the elements. Once you get going, it's just super smooth. It also has a lot of other pro features that I really love, like live collaboration that's as easy to use as Google Docs, really helpful outlining tools to let you change your story structure with drag and drop index cards, and a built-in notes app for all your story and character development work. And the interface is built so you can see all this information at once. I cannot stress how much I love having my script in the middle with my outline to the left and my notes to the right. Everything's in view and I don't have to waste time switching between tabs in a browser or switching between other apps. And everyone I know who uses it loves the stash. You know how when you're writing and you have those lines that you love, but they aren't working in their current place? Well, you can put them in the stash, and then later when you figure out where you want to use them, you can drag and drop them directly into any other part of the script. Check it out, see if you like it. You can get started for free at arcstudiopro.com. The last tip for beginning to write your script is about the beginning of your script. Now, hopefully you already thought about this last lesson when you were coming up with your outline, but you really want to start strong by hooking the audience and establishing the tone of your show. Remember, you are writing this script for the Hollywood suits and their assistants. These people have huge stacks of scripts that they have to get through, and they're so impatient. Help them to understand what your show is and what makes it compelling at the beginning with a scene or a sequence of scenes that makes them feel like they have to keep reading. If your script is a comedy, make the opening funny. If it's a thriller, make the opening thrilling. You get the idea. Don't wait to get to the good stuff because the reader might not ever get that far. And when we meet your protagonist at the beginning of your script, have them be doing something that reveals a little bit about who they are as a person at the start of their journey. Scripts are made out of scenes, so to write a great script, you need to write great scenes. To help you accomplish that, here are 7 tips for writing great scenes. One of the most important things to keep in mind as you're writing your script is that while hopefully the Hollywood suits will read your script, the eventual viewing audience will not. The viewers will never know what you wrote in your script. They will only know what they can see and hear as they watch the show when it eventually gets made. This can be really hard for new screenwriters because in almost every other aspect of our lives, when we write things, we're writing them for the eventual audience that's going to read them. This is our text messages, our emails, homework, poetry, novels, whatever. We're writing it for an audience to read, but not in screenwriting. You're writing something that is going to be filmed and edited and then presented to the eventual viewing audience. The implication of this is that as a screenwriter, you need to write things in your script that can be seen and heard. In a book, you can have long passages about what a character is feeling, but you can't have that in a script. This doesn't mean your characters aren't feeling things. They need to be feeling things, but it means that what they're feeling needs to be expressed through action and dialogue. So instead of writing in your script, Becky is restless, you need to find some way to externalize that feeling, like Becky fidgets in her seat. That way we know she's restless because it's something we can see. Scenes aren't just descriptions of what's happening. They have purpose. They are a tool we use to tell a story. And if you've watched the other lessons, you know that stories come from conflicts. This is true at the scene level as well. Your scenes need conflict. If you have too many scenes without conflict, your script is going to feel really slow and lifeless. This doesn't mean that everyone is fighting in all of your scenes. It just means that in your scenes, your characters have goals and face obstacles. They come into the scene wanting something, whether that's something big or something small, whether it's something tangible or something emotional or psychological, but they want something and they face an obstacle in getting it. Dealing with that obstacle is what the scene is about, and the scene ends with them either succeeding in getting their goal or failing. Your scenes are not just about advancing the plot. Scenes are the windows through which we get to know your characters. How the character deals with obstacles in your scenes reveals who they are. It's much better to show a character being tough or smart or compassionate or evil than just having someone say they're tough or compassionate or smart or evil. So have your characters face problems that force them to make decisions and take actions that reveal who they are. These problems can be external things in the world they have to deal with or internal emotional and psychological things they have to deal with. Whatever it is, have them face the problem, make a decision, and take action. I said your scenes are not just about advancing the plot, but they do need to move the story forward. What your characters do in a scene and how they do it should affect what happens in the next scene. This is how readers are pulled forward through the story. But there should be surprises along the way. If every character reacts exactly how the audience expects them to react, they're going to lose interest. This doesn't mean your characters should be completely random. This just means that your characters are either revealing new aspects of themselves, or they're revealing how the story so far has changed them. In our very first lesson, we learned about stakes, and stakes are just what your characters have at stake. It's what they can gain or what they can lose. Having stakes is really important at the macro story level, but it's also really important at the scene level. In tip number 2, I talked about needing to have goals for your characters in scenes, and you can amp up the tension in those scenes by attaching stakes to those goals. The scene will be much more gripping if the characters have something to gain or lose. Make your scenes as short as possible. I'm not saying make your scenes short, I'm saying make them as short as possible. Start them as late as you can and end them as soon as you can. To do this, think about what's actually important in your scene. What needs to happen? You may find that you have a lot of stuff in your scene that happens either before that or after it that you don't need and could be slowing you down. Consider cutting it. You can also look at this through your character goals. Why does your scene start? Because your character wants something. Why does it end? Because they either succeeded or failed in getting what they want. Now, there are a lot of exceptions to this tip, particularly when it comes to tone and tension. For instance, you may have a scene where one of your characters is in a house and there's a killer hiding in there who's going to attack them. I'm not saying you have to start your scene with the attack. The tension leading up to it is part of that scene. It's important. But when does that tension start? Well, it starts when the audience and or the character learns that the killer is there. That's when we start feeling the tension. So you'd want to get to that pretty quickly in the scene. Think about which character's point of view we're experiencing the scene through. Now, in most scenes, it'll probably be your protagonist, but not in every scene. A shortcut is to think about which character you want the audience to be identifying with as they watch or read. Which character's emotions do you want the audience to be feeling? Tell the story from that POV. It makes the scenes feel more intense because it's like the audience is there having it happen to them. For instance, if you're writing a scene about someone renewing their driver's license at the DMV, you could tell that scene from the POV of the person getting their license renewed, or maybe from one of the workers at the DMV. And those would be two very different scenes. If you're writing the scene from the POV of the person getting their license renewed, that might be a scene about how frustrating it is to be at the DMV. If you're writing the scene from the POV of the person working at the DMV, that might be a scene about how frustrating it is to deal with all these rude customers all the time. Okay, that's it for this lesson. Good luck writing your first draft, and make sure to come back for the next lesson where we learn about revising that first draft until it sparkles. Happy writing, everyone.